Hi, I hope everyone's back. Right. We have with us Vijesh Kumar Raju, and I'll quickly acquaint you guys to him. Vijesh, photographer, explorer, and the man preserving ancient cultures through the lens of his camera, tribesman Vijesh Kumar Raju has provided us with an incomparable window into the exotic, nomadic, historically and culturally significant lives of the few remaining reindeer tribes of the world. Traveling to the most remote corners of the planet, Vijesh has started the grassy plains of Mongolia, the icy lake of Baikal, and on his most breathtaking adventures, has given us the most beautiful journeys to see. With an aim to connect these tribes, who are separated by miles and miles of distance, we have who have never heard of each other, but who live in similar nomadic ways with overlapping traditions and customs. Rajesh hopes to one day bring these people together through the means of his photography. Today, he'll be discussing his experiences with three unique tribes, namely the Tsaatan reindeer herders of Mongolia, the Kazakh eagle hunters, who live in the Altai Mountains, western Mongolia, and the Nenets reindeer herders of the northern Arctic Russia. He'll be discussing his learning straight from approaching his tribes to getting them to open up about their culture and personal beliefs, to the ethics of photography and his efforts to establish connections between two or multiple distinct tribes who live in the same ethos. That is a great endeavor. On to you.
Thank you, Shubhangi. Thanks for the lovely introduction. Let me share my screen.
Absolutely.
Can you all see my screen and can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can, Vijesh. Thank you.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, thanks, everyone. I'm Vijesh. I come from Vizag, Andhra Pradesh, and then I live at the moment in Munich, Germany. I work as an executive consultant in one of the biggest software firms. But on the other hand, I'm a travel photographer, explorer, and an expedition photographer whose main interest lies in going to the most remote, undocumented places of the world and living with the tribes. But today I'm going to take you through some of the tribes that I've lived with. They talk about more on the cultures. And like Rakesh Rao said, he's more into the scientific details of the climate change. But I'm going to address that question also from a people perspective, where what do these tribes feel about the latest climate change that has been impacting their lives as well, right? So before I start showing some of the pictures, I'm going to tell you in advance that some pictures do contain blood. Some might find it gory and some might not find it much appropriate, but that's the truth. That's a part of the culture. All I would ask you to not to judge and not to come to a conclusions based on these pictures. It's just the way they are. Well, thanks. So let's get started. The first tribe that I'm going to talk to you about are the Kazakh eagle hunters who live in the Altai Mountains near Mongolia. They're originally from Central Asia in the northern central part, and these are Turkic people who found their livelihood in Kazakhstan. But then when the Second World War happened, when the Soviets started taking over Kazakhstan, they were destroying cultures. That's when these Kazakh eagle hunters have moved from Kazakhstan into Mongolia. And then they've settled now near the Altai Mountains in Mongolia. There are approximately 250 eagle hunters who still practice their tradition, but some scientific studies say that the number is much lesser as well. And their primary religion is Islam, primarily on this Sunni sect of Islamism. And they are they do follow seasonal migration patterns. Now, eagle hunting from these eagle hunters are done only as a hobby, but their primary livelihood comes from sheep herding and camel herding on the steppes of Mongolia. So the eagle hunters, they live in gers. It's a small structure made up of wooden frame. The main frame is wooden, and then it's covered with a felt. Inside a ger, you do have an iron stove on which they cook, and that also keeps them warm. warm in the winters. When they cook, the iron pot also dissipates the heat inside the gear, so that keeps them quite warm as well. Now these gears, they can be built in 2 hours, and then they can be unpacked in an hour. All the nomads do is they pack, unpack, then they move to the next pasture or next land where the grass is more to keep their livestock grazing. Well, I've got a chance to live with a family of eagle hunters. So there's the primary eagle hunter here is Baktkai Axel. Let's call him Grandpa for the moment. He's the head of the family. And his son Koki also followed his father's footsteps to become an eagle hunter. Now, Baktkai Axel is an 87-year-old eagle hunter. He's probably the oldest eagle hunter living at the moment, and he's been hunting with eagles for the past 67 years. So he has trained more than 30 eagles during his lifetime. And if there was ever a university for eagle hunting, he would now be the head of the Department of Eagle Hunting Studies there. But because he's quite old, he cannot walk properly when he's on the ground. But then when he's on the horse with his eagle, I think he's just like a 20-year-old guy. He's got so much energy still, and he's been running all around the mountains there with his eagle and still hunting till date. And it was a pleasure to learn from him. And this is his son Koki, who has followed his father's footsteps. And he's now very much active in the eagle hunting scenario, where he participates in competitions, and he's one of the leading faces of his culture. He just says that he just wants to keep his culture alive. He's not interested in money, but he feels proud to be an eagle hunter, because eagle is a symbol of strength, and that's what mostly attracts him to this profession. These are the children of Koki. This is the family that I was living with. Very lovely children. They always play around with horses and all, sheep. Well, coming to the eagle hunting, right? So why do they hunt with eagles? So it was as a side profession to get the fur of the animals. Winters in the Altai Mountains are quite harsh. What they used to do is they go out with the eagles in the mountains during winters, and the eagle can hunt anything they can hunt hare, they hunt marmots, they hunt foxes, and sometimes if the eagle is big enough, the eagle can also kill a wolf. Now the meat is usually eaten by the eagle, but then the eagle hunter collects the fur to make clothing, make hats and all. So that's the primary purpose of eagle hunting. And the way they take eagles from the nests. So an eagle hunter goes to the mountains, he starts looking for the eagles, and he starts looking for the eagles for 1 to 2 weeks. And when he finds an eagle there, he sets out a trap in the mountains, and then he catches the eagle there. But on the other hand, some eagle hunters, when they find an eagle nest, they pick out small birds who are not yet ready to fly, and then they bring them back home. So you have two scenarios to capture here. One is capturing a mature eagle or capturing a baby eagle. Most of the eagle hunters prefer to capture a mature eagle because it has already the instinct to hunt. If a baby eagle is captured, it still didn't develop that natural instinct, and they do not make the best of eagles to hunt. So once the eagle is captured, the eagle is brought to the place to train. What happens then is the eagle is blindfolded, it's kept in the dark, and it's starved. When an eagle is kept in the dark for a month or 2 months, it loses its entire memory. That's some very strange practice. So you literally erase the memory of the eagle, putting itself in the dark for continuous 1 to 2 months. And then they do starve the eagle. The eagle hunter then slowly approaches the starved eagle and starts giving it food with his voice. So now the eagle recognizes the hunter's voice, and then it starts getting used to it. Right? That's the first part of the training. So the eagle should identify the hunter, and they both have to be in sync. Now the second part is the eagle has to be accustomed to the horse that it rides. Normally, in a normal scenario, if you take a big eagle close to a horse, this horse starts panicking and it starts running away. So on the second stage of eagle training, both horse and the eagle have to be in sync. Now the eagle hunters are not just one of the greatest eagle hunters of the steppes, but then they are one of the best horse rider of the steppes, because the other horse riders, they do ride the horse with two hands, but then when it comes to an eagle hunter, he only has one hand to ride and one hand to maintain the eagle, and that's an extreme hard act. A mature eagle can be between 7 to 8 kgs, and you'll have to carry that eagle on one of your hand while riding a horse. It's too complicated than a normal eagle hunting process there, right? I had a chance to witness how they train these eagles up the mountains. The first step of training these eagles is you look for a mountain or a hilltop. One of the partner sits on top of the mountain with the eagle, and then the hunter starts shouting down the valley, and then he starts running away with the meat or a fake doll that has fox skin. Now, what the eagle thinks when it sees the fox skin is it thinks that it's a real fox skin, and it starts flying and attacking it. That's how it just grabs the fox skin down there. And whenever the hunt is successful, the eagle hunter rewards the eagle with a piece of meat. Like you see here, it's one of his. So for every hunt which is successful, the eagle gets a lot of meat pieces as a reward. That's how they train the eagles. And one interesting thing about Kazakh eagle hunters are they're very social tribes, I would say, because they do interact with each other a lot. They do drink a lot of alcohol as well. Like in every tribe of the world, alcoholism has been a problem so much in all these tribes. The way they make alcohol is they ferment horse milk. When you take horse milk after 6 hours, starts fermenting, and then it starts giving this pungent smell. And then the more, if you ferment it for 2 days, it's much more strong. It has much more stronger alcohol content. They do gather and they drink these fermented horse milk, and they do play a lot of games with dice made of sheep bones. They collect bones from the sheep and they make dice out of it to play a lot of games there. So they're very social tribes. And each year they all come together to compete against each other, and that's called the Golden Eagle Festival, and it happens in the plains of Mongolia near the Altai Mountains. They have very interesting games. The first game here that you see is an eagle hunter has to catch an object that's lying on the ground. He has to run fast with his with his horse, and then he has to bend down till the ground, and he has to pick this object up from the ground. And here in this picture, you see he has missed it. The other game that they play is like a classic polo with a decapitated sheep. And I think this is played across all Kazakhstan and Central Asia, everywhere in Central Asia. They do decapitate a sheep and two men fight over the corpse of that sheep. Then one of them wins, one of them gets to drag out that sheep from the other, and then he just has to put that decapitated body onto a designated place. That's one of the game here that they play. And this is quite funny. This is a game where the eagle hunter kisses a woman and he starts running away. The woman should follow him all the way, and then she starts hitting him up. She starts beating him up with a stick or anything that's found. And it's quite a funny sight to watch when you actually see two people fighting on a horse. That was that was during the eagle hunting festival, and it was quite a pleasure to be with them and learn an entirely different culture in the mountains of Altai. The next tribe that I'm gonna talk about is Tsaatan reindeer herders of Mongolia. Right? I'm sure if you've seen, I've seen some lot of articles these days in National Geographic about these reindeer herders, but then there's much more interesting things happening there here. Now, the Tsaatan reindeer tribes, they have originated from Tuva Republic. Tuva Republic was a part of Russia. Again, what happened during the Second World War in Tuva Republic is all the reindeer herders are being collectivized, which means the animals are being taken away from them and everybody is forced to work in the war. That's when all these Tsaatan people have crossed the border from Russia into Mongolia. But then the Mongolian government has rejected them, saying, no, we won't allow you. And after some days, yes, the Mongolian government has given them a permission to stay in their taiga. Currently, there are only about 30 families of Tsaatan reindeer herders. And they do have two camps. One is a summer camp, one is an autumn, the other is an autumn camp. The religion that they practice is called shamanism. Well, an interesting thing about shamanism is they do look at symbols of nature. They look at each and every change that happens in the nature. They look at a twig. There's a special kind of tree. There are shamans coming up. They do act as a medium between them and the nature. So all these shamanism and animistic religions, which are followed by the tribes, are fully oriented towards nature. Nature is very important. Nature is a part of religion here. And that's when they do have immense respect towards the reindeer herders, towards the reindeers. Tsaatan people do not kill reindeers. Their entire livelihood depends on the reindeers. So when we were traveling there, we had to, it was almost autumn there. So the reindeer herders were living in the autumn camp. So we had to travel 2 days, like 1 day by flight, 1 day on road, and 4 hours by a horse to reach the camp. So overall, it was 2.5 days to reach them, 2.5 days back. So it was like a 5-day journey only to travel. But on the other hand, summer camp is much deeper. They move to a much colder place. Summer camp takes 2 days by horse ride plus 2 more days. So summer camp takes 8 days. And that being my first time on horse, I was super, super scared in the forest. The horses had to cross the streams. The mud was so soft, the horses were falling down. And on the way to the camp, there was a hailstorm. There was rain, and it was quite scary. And the scariest part of horses is once a horse, if you have a group of 10 horses, and once one horse starts running, all these horses start running very fast, and that was quite scary because I had to also handle a camera here. The camera was almost hitting my face every time when the horses start running. The camera was so much hitting my face. It was quite an experience to shoot being on the horse, and honestly, I didn't think I would really make it. But this was close to our autumn camp. Now the Tsaatan reindeer herders live in yurts. So some people call them yurts, some people call them teepees. It's a teepee-like structure that is made up with birch bark, and it's covered with felt. If you look closely here, you see a solar panel as well, and that was quite interesting to see a tribe using a solar panel for light. So there's just one light inside the teepee, and then the solar panel provides the light for that. They don't have any other accessory to use. In the camp, the reindeers are tied very close to the teepee. A family can have somewhere between 20 to 100 reindeers, and then all these reindeers are tied every day nearby to the camp because they just don't leave them in the forest because there's a lot of predators coming up, like wolves eating these reindeers. And the first activity of a woman of the tribe every day morning is to milk these reindeers. And reindeer milk is quite creamy. It depends also on the season. If the season is autumn and summer, the reindeer milk is quite creamy with a lot of fat content. But then if it's winter or if it's spring, the reindeer milk is very watery. That's what they say. The texture differs. She's Tunga. She's our host who was milking the reindeer, and this is Tunga's daughter who was drinking the milk. And once the reindeers are milked, then the reindeers are set free for grazing. The role of the men in this tribe is to protect these reindeers, make sure that these reindeers are not attacked by the wolves or other predators. The men chop the wood, the men guard the reindeers, the men hunt some of the meat, like they're responsible for hunting hares and bringing the meat as well. The men pick up the fruits, berries from the wild, also for consumption here. That forms a staple diet: reindeer milk, reindeer cheese, and bread and bannock. Apart from all these fruits and meat are the staple diet of these reindeer herders. Right, this is Buina. Buina is a 65-year-old Tsaatan lady. She was the head of the family that I've stayed with. Buina has never been married, but she has 2 kids. One of her daughters is Tunga. So non-marriage is the concept of marriage is not really existent in the olden days within these tribes. So, but these days it's changing. They do get married. They do marry the normal Mongolians as well outside their community, and that's quite accepted as well. And Buina has been telling about her stories right from the past. And one of the questions that I ask everybody who I meet: what changes do you see currently? What changes? What was it like? It's in your childhood. What was it like living a life of your childhood, and what's the difference that you see today with regards to the climate change? What Buina says is that the shamans, we predict the seasons and they start moving from one place to another. But she says that these days it's quite hard for the tribe to predict the climate, to predict the seasons, because the entire seasonal chain has been disrupted because of climate change, and they just can't predict it anymore. And it becomes very hard if they move to a new place and then there's total ice on them. Now the reindeers cannot eat anything, and eventually they'll die. And that's what she was saying, is that it's really hard to predict the next move and next movement of us. The kids of the reindeer herders, they go to school. Mongolian government has offered, so Mongolian government policy is that if you send the tribal kid to the school, it will in turn pay them back some money. So that's how the kids are being sent to school. The way schooling works is every season the kids are sent to school, and they do stay in a boarding school. They do stay there for 3 months or 4 to 5 months. And then when there's a vacation, they come back to the taiga and live with their parents. That's how it's working out with these tribes. And kids who are not old enough to go to school, they just live with the parents. And this is how they play there. It's quite nice to see them playing on the reindeers. It's such a beautiful sight. So another source of income, the source of income for these reindeer herders is Mongolian government pays them money. And if you have a kid, if you're sending the kid to school, you're also paid some money. Other income is these reindeer herders, they trade reindeer milk, reindeer cheese, reindeer antlers to the nearby village. Now, reindeer antlers are an extremely prized possession in the and the Chinese traditional medicine. Reindeer velvet and reindeer antlers. In Chinese medicine, they say that this powder of these antlers increases sexual intensity in males. That's why it's a very high priced market in China. All these antlers, the women also carve these antlers and they make toys out of it. Those are also very highly priced, and then they sell these these antlers to the nearby village. On return, what they get from the village is they do buy bread, they do buy flour and oil to make bread and bannock. Yeah. So the trip with these reindeer, with the reindeer caravan, takes 8 hours to reach the nearby village. So we came by horse. Horses are much faster than reindeers, so it took us 4 to 6 hours. But when they go to the village, reindeers are quite slow, and so it takes them 6 to 8 hours to reach the nearby village. They do stay in the village for a day or two, sell off all their products, buy some bread and oil, and come back to the camp. Well, this was the tent that we've stayed in. This was our teepee, and this was the night sky from the tent. And it was quite fascinating to see. I didn't have to use long exposures much to actually capture the Milky Way. It was so fascinating. And this was my first Milky Way capture. I was looking for them so many times in the Alps or in the Iceland or in the Arctic, but I couldn't find this Milky Way. But it was the first photo in Mongolia that I've taken, and I was so satisfied capturing a Milky Way. And this bright dot that you see here is Mars. And Mars was so bright everywhere that we went. We had this. Now, what happened here, interesting, is after I went back home, I was looking through all my notes and I was looking through all the pictures. And that's when I realized that I've asked Boina a question saying, where exactly are your relatives? You can't. There has to be one point where you come off from Russia, and then, but what happened to your relatives? Then Boina had something very interesting to say. She said that her relatives are in Russia and they've never got a chance to meet them. And she doesn't even know that if they exist at the moment, or if they speak the same language. They might speak Russian, and never ever they have visited each other. And that was quite strange to me. I mean, that was quite strange to me. You live in 2019, you live in 2020, and how can you not be connected through any form, right? Be it a telephone call or anything. That's when I told my friend, and I started looking up more about reindeer tribes. I started researching a lot about these tribes, and then I realized that all these reindeer tribes have been living in the forest, and then they're quite disconnected with each other. They've heard about each other. Some of them might have heard about each other, but then they do not know what practices. They've never seen each other, and then they do not know the lifestyle that the other tribe lives. And that was fascinating. You have a lot of reindeer tribes in the world. You have Tsaatan people, you have Nenets, you have Dolgans, you have Chukchi reindeer herders, you have Tofalars, everyone. I mean, but the thing is, they've never been connected. All of them are reindeer herders. All of them do reindeer herding. Everybody's life revolves around reindeers, but they've never contacted each other. So what I said to my friend, I was like, you know what? Let's go to the next reindeer tribe. Let's make a photo book out of it. The only way that I saw that to connect these people, it's only through photos that you can connect. The reason why is this: you cannot connect them to a phone call because they do not speak the same language. There's Nenetsky, there's Chukchi, there's Russian, there's Mongolian, so they don't speak the same language. You cannot make videos and explain them about, show them the life here. That's because they do not have TVs there. So the only way that popped up in my mind is that, so you can make a photo, which has a meaning. You can demonstrate the lifestyle of each other through photos on a printed book, and that book stays with them forever. That's when that was an idea just came up, and we were like, okay, then we have an idea, let's go to the next reindeer herders. We looked up for the reindeer herders, and we were like, okay, we found Nenets. Now Nenets live in the Arctic, Siberia. So all the way from Mongolia, the next journey continued towards the Arctic. And the tribes live in the Arctic, so I've lived with them for a couple of days. So Nenets are Samoyed people, which means they do have their origins somewhere from Estonia, Finland, and they're also a mix of Turkic people. Some of them have features of European facial features, while some of them have Asian and Mongolian, Turkic, Mongolian features as well. Now, at the moment, there are more than 10,000 reindeer herders in the Yamalo-Nenets Peninsula in Russia, and they do follow multiple religions. The religions' beliefs are a mix of animism, Orthodox Christianity, which they don't really divulge to the outsiders. But what's fascinating about these Nenets, they do a continuous migration because their herd size is much bigger. They need a lot of food, so they have to continuously migrate from one place to another in search of food. And they follow a migration they do migrate 1,000 kilometers per year, per year. So in summers, they live by close to Kara Sea, which is high up in the Arctic. That's when it's cooler, and it also provides a chance to hunt seals and walruses. They also eat seals as well. And then when winter is approaching, they come down towards south to the nearby city. So this was my reindeer camp from the Nenets in the Arctic. There are just 2 families living here in this camp. And it took us 13 hours to reach this camp by a huge truck, right? We started our journey in Salekhard, and we reached this camp 13 hours later. We passed through Arctic research stations, petrol drilling stations, and snowstorms, blizzards. It was a crazy night. It was super crazy drive to reach these camp. So this is our camp, and this camp has 2 families living by. And so the families, sorry. So we have here, he's Vladimir, and it's his wife Zhenya. Here is Timofey, and it's his wife Natasha. Now, Natasha is Vladimir's sister, elder sister, who has been married to Timofey. So Vladimir belongs to a caste of Vonitos, and the other family is Laptanders. Right. So you see Zhenya holding my book that I gave to her on the Tsaatan reindeer herders. Well, Vladimir. We also had Alina and Olya, who are the daughters of Vladimir and Zhenya. And this is how it looks. This is how it actually looks inside a teepee here. So we also had this youngest son of a Laptander family, and he's tied by a harness to the tent. The reason why young kids have to be tied to the harness is that to prevent these kids, if not tied to a harness, they try to access the hot pot, which means they would end up burning their hands and feet. It's a very dangerous thing. It's a very dangerous thing letting the kid alone in the room. So the reindeer camp also had a house cat. The house cat had 2 different eye colors. It was so strange to find such a cat in the Arctic with the eye colors of 2 different eyes of 2 different colors. The camp is also guarded by dogs, and we also had a pet orphan reindeer roaming around the camp. Now the important part of this camp is the sleds. Not everything can be stored inside the teepee. Right, so the way they store a lot of artifacts is via sleds. If you see this sled in the back, this is a meat sled where all the meat, hunted meat, goes into one sled for storage. And there's another sled called the sled where they store wood, they store ice in a different sled, they store bread in a different sled. So all these sleds are also across, they're just put up across the camps. And this one here is a travel sled, where this sled is used for transporting women and children here. So reindeer, so the Nenets, one of the activities of the Nenets is fishing, hunting, and reindeer herding. These are the three activities by which they get food. This was fishing in a nearby frozen lake where they had to dig up so they put traps in the beginning and they come later after 5 to 10 days. Then they break the ice, they dig up the ice, and then they start pulling fish out of the trap. No, what's fascinating here is they do it without using gloves. It was a snowstorm when we went there. There was a snowstorm, and none of the Nenets were wearing hand gloves. It was so cold. Really, even with the warmer and even with the glove, shooting this entire thing, it was, for me, it was, my fingers were numb. And they were happily pushing out the ice in the lake, and then they were pulling up the fish and then they're throwing it on the ground. It was just fascinating. I mean, really, I just never could imagine taking off my glove in such a harsh environment there. The other activity they do for food is hunting. So hunting is done in pairs, where one of the reindeer herder is with a gun. He sits in a ditch and he waits for the bird to fly to hunt. And then when the bird flies, he shoots it with the gun. I was taken into their hunting team to document their hunting. And we were looking the entire evening in the tundra for birds to hunt, birds or rabbits to hunt. But we found none that day. And so the hunt was quite unsuccessful. But the next day morning, Vladimir went ahead, and then he had a successful hunt there. He brought up 2 Arctic ptarmigians, and these ptarmigians, I asked them, how often do you eat and what does it taste like? They said this ptarmigan meat tastes exactly like chicken or very closely to chicken. They've offered me to try, but I don't eat non-veg during the expedition part, so I politely refused. The main food for the reindeers, for the Nenets, come from reindeer meat. It's one of the staple food of their diet. You see, the Tsaatan reindeer herders of Mongolia do not kill reindeers. On the other hand, Nenets kill reindeers for their primary survival purpose. The way they kill is they first find out a reindeer which is weak or which is orphaned or which is injured. And then they strangulate the reindeer with a rope. They hit it on his head. And they peel off its skin. They extract the meat. The final thing is they drink the warm blood of the reindeer when it's killed. The reason why they do that is in the Arctic, these tribes do not get any vitamin, and primarily vitamin D. In winters, there's no sunlight in the Arctic, and then everything is frozen. So there's literally no chance for them to get vitamins and vitamin D especially. Well, on the other hand, people living in the Norwegian Arctic, they do take cod liver oil for vitamin D. But the Nenets living in Siberia, they do get these vitamins primarily from the reindeer blood.
These are beautiful narratives you've captured through pictures, variation. There's if you look at the chat box, there's tons and tons of praises flowing in from everyone. I wish I could articulate every single one of them. But there's also a lot of questions. Would you like to open floor to questions? And before that, you could just tell all our viewers here where you've tuned in from and how's everything there.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Where are you tuning in from? You're in Germany, right?
I'm in Munich. I'm in Germany, Munich. That's right.
How's everything there?
It's going good. I think it's better here at the moment with
Is
COVID.
it though?
So I'm going. So I think just run through the pictures, and it takes 2 minutes, and then I'll finish.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good. So, well, the primary responsibility for a man is to hunt and keep the home ready and to protect the reindeers. Women take the role of housemaking here. Women chop the wood. Women chop the ice to make water. Chop the wood to make fire in the winter. All you get there is a small cup of water to drink every day, and not to drink, to perform your daily ablutions, because even water is hard to get. You'll have to chop the wood, make fire, chop the ice, melt it to form water. On the other hand, the reindeer women also are responsible to sew the new clothing, and then the thread that they get, they take the wean from the backbone of the reindeers, and then they use it as a thread. They use the skin of a reindeer leg to make it as a boots. And this is how they migrate. For the first step of migration is to dismantle the teepee and pack it onto the sleds. Now what they do is they do catch the reindeers. Only male castigated bulls are caught for migration. Well, the women, on the other hand, make the sleds, prepare all the reindeers, bring them together to form a caravan, and then they do migrate in the Arctic to a next location to get food. So that's my place. That's where I was sleeping under the Arctic sky. It was such a beautiful moment. That was my first Northern Lights scene, and it was fascinating. It was just like a new alien portal opened up. And I've already spoken about Reindeer Project. These are the list of reindeer herders that are in the world at the moment. But the plan is to continue the journey next to time year. This year I was going to the other reindeer herders, but it was stopped because of COVID. Right, I think I will take questions from now on.
Right. These are beautiful pictures. Honestly, I've never seen more beautiful frames and frames capturing a narrative that needs to be conveyed. I think we'll move on to the questions now. There's two broad categories of questions. There's this kind of questions which talk about, the lives, the commodification and the tourism aspect of these tribes. And then there's more logistical questions talking about how did you communicate with these people and did you carry a lot of photography equipment. So I'll start by taking Nishant. So Nishant, right, he says, so while this is a tradition for Kazakhs, but when it becomes a part of tourism, is it ethical? Is like the activities these people are carrying out, is it ethical, or aren't they also prone to a lot of commodification if exposed to tourism, especially in the western part of Mongolia?
True. I'll talk about Kazakh eagle hunters. There was one movie called The Golden Eagle Hunter or Huntress that has come up with Sony Pictures, and it has put all these hunters to the world, and the entire Western world travels with these to Mongolia to be with Kazakh eagle hunters. Is it ethical? The question is, there are two things. They live in absolute poverty, and some hunters do like it. There are also fake eagle hunters coming up in that community, just posing with eagles. Some hunters do like it, some don't. They say, okay, you're ruining the entire thing here. So it's a mixed answer here. It's up to the eagle hunter. The one who I was with, Koki, was very happy to have us. And yes.
So then there's Bani who asks, do you travel with a lot of photography equipment since you travel a lot and at such adverse places that...
No, the answer is no. I always keep it light. So the entire Mongolia I've shot with one camera and one lens.
Oh, wow.
It was Sony A6500 with 1670 lens. That's it.
There's a question from Mridula, and she's curious about how did you manage to communicate with these people. Of course, your photos are your primary source of bringing out the narrative and like what you really stand for. But like, how did you in general manage to talk to these people about everyday things?
I think there's always a translator when you travel to the
Um,
remote tribes. One lesson that I've learned and one thing that I always want to tell everyone is never ever travel to these tribes without a translator, without a local. That's because there can be a very misunderstanding situation because you can't communicate, and it can be life threatening because when in shamanism you do believe that if you violate a small thing, when you start a fight, you should not end the fight till you see the blood of the other person. It's going to be very tricky, and I've had very tricky situations sometimes where I was mistakenly without permission, I was taking a picture of a caravan, reindeer caravan coming from 400 meters, and he was shouting at me, which I did not understand. I just had to bow down and lie down so that he doesn't do any physical harm there. I always communicate through a local and local guide. They're always there.
yeah, I think it's about respecting the other community in their niche,
Correct.
especially, right? Um,
Correct.
so there's this question from Dhriti, another one on the logistical side, on the commercial side rather. So she's curious about how do you manage to fund these expeditions?
So far, I'm self-funded. There's nobody. So far, it has been always a self-funding thing, and that's quite expensive. I should tell you that.
Imagine. We have more questions, right? How long are your travels? How do journey begin? How do you find a career in the same? Similar questions. I'm clubbing them all together, and you can address it.
Right.
Probably the last question.
Right. Career. So this is not my primary career. Primarily, I work as an executive consultant. So I think I get money or funding from the real job. That on the career side, I really don't know. If you have to do an expedition, you need to be a filmmaker. You need to be sponsored for sure. And these expeditions cost you somewhere between around, let's say, $3,000 for 10 days of travel, somewhere till $6,000 as well. And I've never been funded so far, and I just had to take out every penny from my bank account. And how long are these travels? It depends. With Kazakh eagle hunters, it's almost a week. Tsaatan people, because the logistics were quite complex, it was 3 days with them. And in Nenets in the Arctic, I was living them for 1 or 1.5 week with the tribes.
Right. So there's like more questions pouring in. But before that, I really want to insert this one quick question. Asad has asked me to convey, in fact, it's Asad's question. I mean, I'm just addressing it to you. So Asad asks, when are you taking the Vibe crew on the next documentary on the
Definitely, yes. So there was a plan.
really curious about this?
Yes, so definitely. I mean, for sure, there's a plan that we all do an expedition or we all do a show together on this entire project. We're documenting each and every reindeer tribe of the world. It's just that we'll just have to figure out the finances and then we are ready to go.
Right. So I guess Asad has an answer, affirmative.
Yes, he has it.
Great. We have a few more questions and you can take them if you'd like to address any of them.
Yes.
Multiple questions asking how can we get in touch with you? So maybe you'll spell out your Insta handle.
Instagram, I'm just typing it there. So
Great. And there's questions about how do you identify these places to visit. And
you'll have to read a lot. Not really. You really have to read a lot of scientific papers. You have to read a lot about these cultures. And that's when you do identify that there's a lot of stories in the world which have not been told yet. And we as gifted photographers, gifted artists, I think it's our responsibility for us to go beyond the routine and go further, explore more, like Rakesh Rao does, and tell the story which have been not told, give a voice to these people whose voices have not been heard.
Anshul really wants to know, where are you headed next?
Timor Peninsula to the Dolgans. There's another tribe called Dolgans, and we got a permit to visit them this year, because each and every tribe that you visit, you'll have to apply for a permit, and only then you're allowed to visit them. So we got a permit this year, but it didn't work out because of COVID. So do I carry my own food or depend on the tribes for it? As a precaution, I do carry my own food, but I would prefer to sit and eat next to the tribe, not just to keep them away. But in the end, I give the tribes my own food when I come back, and I've made them taste chana masala for the tribes in Arctic, and they were quite fascinated. When I gave them the right food there, they never had spices. The only spice they have is salt there. Even reindeers love salt. You just put salt on your palm, and then the reindeer starts coming to you and starts licking it. So when I gave chana masala, it was quite an intense thing for them.
These are really unique stories, and this is a really unique endeavor, something I've never seen before. The idea of using photos to send out narratives to people, it's the most beautiful thing. Thank you so much for being here with us. It has been a great time. I can't be grateful enough. These are beautiful frames, and you can just look for yourself in the chat box the amount of praise you have and the amount of fans you've grown. So
Thank you.
that's that.
It's
That was
been
great
real
meeting you
pleasure.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijesh. Thank you so much. That was really, really inspirational. And I think it was out of this world for me. And I think there are no words for something like this. I think you have to experience it. Pictures, the pictures were so fabulous. Your photography is just out of this world. And we really, really thank you. And all the best for all the endeavors in life, and keep shining.
Thank you. Thank you, Explorers 7. Thank you so much, Arnob.
Thank you, Shubangi from the Vibe. Thank you, Asad. Thank you, Anchal, and the entire Vibe team with Rakesh and Jihan for making this amazing 3 hours our best time in this weekend. And I hope all of you had fun, and I hope all of you had great insights from various landscapes, various cultures, various aspects of adventure and travel. And with that, Shubangi, I really, really thank you for hosting. Yes.
Thank you guys. Follow the vibe. It has been the best time. I'll see you.
Thank you. That's Vibe for you guys, India's most premium travel and lifestyle channel. Uh, if you want to check them out, just go to Instagram or YouTube and at thevibe.me, and you will find them right there. Thank you. Okay, so we're at 6. In case anybody wants to get a coffee, do you want us to wait for 1 minute, or we can start Jaitit with our next session, which is with Jaitit Ahya, sorry, and I'll tell you a bit about Jaitit just about in a minute. But before that, Jaitit, can you hear me?
I can hear you all right, Arnab.
Thank you so much for joining in. How is your day going?
Fantastic. It's been raining in Bangalore and it's a beautiful day to work. Yeah.
I'm sure. So, just about a minute, and should we start the session? If anybody wants to get their coffees or tea, please do so in just about a minute, and we go live with Jaitit